We reach out now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline to Keith Pompey, Sixers beat reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and a guy recently out of Twitter limbo. Keith, what happened with your Twitter? Last night I'm getting ready to do the show, and I'm like, Pompey on Sixers. I know that. I type in Pompey, and I can't find you. And then finally it said, what happened?
I was on Twitter vacation. What happened is, I was like messing with my profile, and I guess I got heavy hands, fat hands, and I hit the wrong button. And the next thing you know, it was like error message, and then I was gone. And it was like, the day after the holiday. So I'm like, okay, let me just contact Twitter and see if we can get it done. And man, it took forever to get it back. But I want to thank them because, I called the office today and spoke to certain people, and it kind of got expedited. But it's weird, man. You never realize how much you use Twitter for work until it's gone.
That's right. I saw you gave shout-outs to Kim Fox and to Ray Boyd, your guys that helped you out to get back on. I mean, that's the thing is, I tell you when we do like career days and stuff, Keith, I tell people, you can take your Instagram, you can take your Facebook. Twitter is where the news breaks.
Oh, my gosh. And it was crazy. I mean, it was like yesterday. So I'm like, oh, my God, okay, I have something that I want to get out there. And I'm calling the people at the Philly.com, late night. I'm like texting them, calling them. And I said, can you please just throw this out there, get it out there? And they were like, yeah. But, the thing is, I'm thinking if someone else had the same information I had, I would have been like, oh, well, I had it first. And people have been like, sure you did, Pompey. You know what I mean? But no, I'm just excited to be back on.
All's well that ends well. You don't realize what you miss until you don't have it, and then you miss it. So we, just like the way we feel about you, Keith, if you're not on our air for a while, we miss you. We want you to come back on and provide the perspective. You're out in Vegas for the Summer League, and a couple of storylines breaking there, including Furkan Korkmaz going to get a look tonight, and you tweeted out the starting lineup. What's the starting lineup again? I saw you just tweeted that out not that long ago.
It's going to be Jonah Bolden. It's going to be Chris McCullough. Chris McCullough is a guy who, he'll be a fourth-year veteran next year, but he's a free agent. He played with the Washington Wizards. And then there's Furkan Korkmaz, of course, Zaire Anderson, and then, Zaire Smith. And then there's Demetrius Jackson.
Get out of Notre Dame.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And Demetrius Jackson. Yeah, so that's and some people are saying, well, how come, Landry Shumpert isn't starting? And I think it's one of those things, if you look at it, the Sixers already have 3 point guards on the roster. Landry is a very good shooter, and he's a guy who they want to see if he can play off the ball, too. So what that does is it makes him more versatile. And so there's no other, this is the best way to see if he can do it, in the Summer League. So I think that, some people are a little bit like, oh, what's going on? Just relax a little bit. I just think that it's one of those things where they just want to see what can he do on the floor with another ball-dominant player.
How different a Furkan Korkmaz do you expect to see tonight now that he's got a little more seasoning under his belt and some more FIBA action as well?
You know what? I'm kind of excited to see what he can do. I mean, a year ago, you base it on FIBA, on the Turkish team. He was just a guy. He was okay, but he was like just a role player, a young role player. The past 2 games that they had in their World Cup qualifiers, he was the guy. I mean, he in both games he had game high points and scoring, and he even said to me when he came here last year, he didn't know what to expect in regards to the Summer League play. So I'm really looking forward to see what he can do. I'm not expecting him to straight out dominate, but I am looking forward to see him having a more all around versatile game than he did last summer.
Keith Pompey with us. Keith, you wrote an article about Jonah Bolden talking about he's on the record saying, I'm going to be on the Sixers roster this year. Can you just talk a little bit about Bolden and what you think about him, and does he really have a logistic chance to making the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think he does. And the thing about it is, Jonah Bolden is really the big unknown. Like last year, all we saw him was in the summer league. But I will say that the 76ers really wanted him to be on the team. It was just a matter of them not having any roster spots. So he went overseas. He said it was one of those things that when, he spoke to Brian Colangelo, who's no longer here, but the goal always was from day one when they drafted him that he would go overseas for a year and then, come back, this year and play. So, it's going to be crazy because in order to fit him in, some people are going to have to go. Now, again, since he is a second-round pick, it could probably be one of those things where they could sign him to a two-way, I believe, just because he's a second-rounder. But, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole situation because, they do need some post players, so that's good for him. But, it's just going to be interesting to see what they do with this roster.
Yeah, it should be interesting. He could be a nice little fit there coming off the bench, taking some of those Ersan Ilyasova minutes, but we'll see how he does tonight in the first game. So talk about the Sixers offseason so far, Keith, because I get way too many people up in arms about you miss LeBron, Paul George is back in Oklahoma City, Kawhi is who knows, they're too reluctant to give up Fultz. But it seems like they're making a lot of nice moves here to set themselves up for next offseason with Amir Johnson coming back on the league minimum, veteran minimum. J.J. Redick's back. So talk a little bit about what the Sixers have done so far and maybe be a voice of reason for some of the people in the area.
Well, you know what? I'm kind of sort of like I'm down the middle on this one. And the reason being is, like, we looked at the playoff series last year, and you saw how the Sixers, in order for them, well, you came to the realization, in order for the 76ers to get to the next level, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid needs help. And you look at the teams who go far, typically they'll have, like, at least two all-stars, all-star or stand-up all-star caliber players. Like, again, like a Chris Paul. He's not an all-star this year, but he's an all-star caliber player. And then they have another player who basically is playing at an extremely high level, right? So the 76ers, they came out and they said they wanted to go star hunt.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of missed out on the star hunting, at least with two of them. We don't know with Kawhi yet. So when you go out there and you bring back a J.J. Redick, you go out there and you sign up and you trade for, the guy from Denver, Wilson Chandler. And then you get the guy from, they call him B in Minnesota. I don't want to mess up his name,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Pete and I were calling him Jumanji, but we're not sure. The first name is so difficult.
Yeah, someone told me in Minnesota they just called him B, so I'm going to just call him B.
I like that. I'll call him B with you.
So anyway, so when you go ahead and you do that, people are saying, okay, so you got role players to fit in, but you don't get the superstar.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. And also the rhetoric was that we have to do this in order to move forward. And when you're unable to close the deal, that's why people were upset. Now, again, these are all good players and good role players for the 76ers. But at the same time, the fans were expecting them to go out there and get a superstar, and they weren't able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. The team is falling into place with this year with some of the signings they have.
With all the pieces that people couldn't afford, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out there getting affordable pieces because other people are up against salary cap issues like in Denver or, I believe, Keith, according to our official pronunciation guide, Nemanja Bjelica, NB.
It's questionable.
That's my attempt, Keith.
Well, I'm going to ask him, is it okay if I call you B? And if he says, yeah, I'm just going to call him B.
That's perfect. Get back to us. Let us know what he says on that because we'll jump on that B train with you.
Okay.
So real quick here. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, no, I got it. So do you think the Sixers with currently constructed, some of the criticism on last year was they're not athletic. They don't have a lot of ball handlers especially with Bellinelli and Ersan, as well as they played last year in the second half and in the playoffs. there was some criticism to that. So now the Sixers get Smith, they get Amir, Rashawn Holmes is still in the mix. They get Wilson Chandler, who's a guy that really can play multiple positions. Do you see the Sixers changing up their identity at all, at least with that second unit, or are we going to see more Furkan, Landry Shamet? Like, what's the identity going to be of this Sixers unit, especially the second one, if it remains somewhat the same as it is now?
Well, the guy B is a pretty good 3-point shooter, so that helps out. And then you also, of course, you have J.J. Redick. And Shamet is a good 3-point shooter, too. But the thing is with him, it's kind of like a wait and see, because we have to see if it translates to the, transfers to the NBA game. Now, as far as the other guys, I think that they're going back a little bit to the 76ers teams in the past. And I'm not saying losing. I'm saying, like, they got guys in here who are extremely defensive-minded and extremely athletic. Now, the thing, the Sixers could be done, but I would not be surprised if they still tried to go out there and get another guy who can create his own shot and a guy who can make threes. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you look at Jared Bayless, it's no secret that, they would like to get from under that contract, even if they had to buy him out. Now, the thing is, some people would ask, like, well, why don't they just up and waive him now? Well, if you waive him now, the problem would be that you're going to be stuck with, all, if not most of that salary, based on how much you can buy him out for. So, I still believe that the 76ers are still going to try to make moves, and do some things. And even when you look at it, like, you think about it, so you have, Dario Saric and you have B, like two kind of mobile force, right? And then you have Chandler, and then you have Robert Covington, two long athletic wings. So, if you're the let's say the Sixers and you're talking to the Spurs, you can still say, hey, look, you have your pick. I have 2 4s and I have 2 3s. Choose, decide, like, who do you want out of that group? So, I still believe that the 76ers aren't done. That's just my inkling. But yeah, this team, I believe that they are going to get rid of Jared Bayless.
Keith Pompey is with us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, with us from Vegas, where the Sixers play in the Summer League tonight. Follow Keith on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. And Keith, you kind of hinted at it there, and I guess if I'm reading through your answer a little bit or listening to what you're saying, you get the idea that the Wilson Chandler move may be a piece of something still to come, a.k.a. because there was social media stuff that day. I guess that was Tuesday when that all came down late in the show, that Wilson Chandler was coming to the Sixers. There was all kinds of social media that said, well, this signals that all chances to go after Kawhi are dead. And I thought, no, it also could signal that they're just increasing their war chest. How did you view it?
I mean, I viewed it that way. I mean, here's the thing. I think, like, from the Sixers standpoint, when it first came out, they said, oh, this is the guy we always wanted. He's going to be a great addition to us. And, he if it's true, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if it's true, that's great too. But I think that when you get a team and you really want to go after a Kawhi Leonard, and you're saying that there's only 3 untouchables on the team, and everyone else is everyone else is up for grabs. Now, 2 things can help the Sixers. They could move him to bring in Kawhi, and they will be excited about that. Or you can keep him, and he's here for a year, and then he comes off the books. So basically, you're taking care of 2 things. Like, next year, you're going to have enough cap space to go after a top-notch guy again. And then secondly, you have a guy that you could possibly move to get the Kawhi Leonard trade. Now, again, they're not going to come out and say, hey, we got him with the idea that we possibly could move him, because if they don't move him, we're going to be talking about the Sixers like we were before when they said we were going star hunting and they couldn't bring in a star. So, of course, if I'm the Sixers, my rhetoric is, hey, here's a guy that we really like and we want to keep, regardless of how you feel.
You could argue they did go star hunting. They just didn't go star catching. They didn't get any of those stars. Keith Pompey with us from the Philadelphia Inquirer, talking a little Sixers basketball. Keith, we had a national writer on Tuesday that covers the NBA nationally for Forbes, and he said that outside of Cleveland, the Sixers were the biggest losers in free agency. Would you agree with that statement?
Outside of Cleveland, I would have to pay more attention to what other teams, who they were looking to get, because I mean the Sixers set the bar high. I mean the free agents that who they were going after were like, like Hall of Fame type players.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for you to say that they were the second biggest loser, I mean, I think that, their scale was like weighted very heavily. So I don't know. I think that's a little harsh to say that. Now, I think that with the hype that the Sixers had coming off of last season, I would say that it could be considered a disappointing offseason, just because, you have Ben Simmons, you have Joel Embiid, team won 52 games, all the success that they're making marketing, and the fact that they couldn't lure someone, that's a little disappointing because of all the hype surrounding the team. But at the same time, I think it's kind of a little harsh to say that, they were they had the worst, second worst, off season.
Yeah, Keith, I have to ask you. We can't bring you on here, and I can't not ask you about any type of update on Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs. And the most recent reports are the Spurs want Fultz, and the Sixers are not willing to give up on Fultz. So do you have any type of update on that situation? What's your opinion on the Sixers' legit chances of maybe giving in and saying, all right, here's Fultz, we'll take Kawhi? Or do you not even want that to happen?
It's a tough one because you hear so many things. Like, you hear some people saying they want Fultz. You hear other people saying, like, people want to wait and see what Fultz can do to shoot the ball first. And the thing about, I will say this, I have heard that, that the Spurs, the Spurs will ask for something. And then next year the Sixers will come back with it. And then, you're like, oh, but someone else had offered this. You know what I mean? So you don't know if they're trying to get you to basically bargain against yourself, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, not knowing what was really behind the door. So, I don't know. I mean, my thing is, if I'm the Spurs now, folks, the Spurs do have a great shooting coach. But at the same time, I think that they would really want to see him shoot the ball before they would go out there and make that trade, for him or include him, unless, you're just getting as many guys as you can and say, well, if it doesn't work out here, so be it. But, Fultz is like a guy who his second year is coming up. A team is going to have to decide whichever team he goes to, they're going to have to decide, in October after Halloween, basically, if are you going to pick up his third year option? Now, you assume that they will because he is the first overall pick. But at the same time, if this is a team that really, doesn't know anything about his history like the Sixers do, it just seems like that's, you're just asking a lot. You know what I mean? But again, it could be true. But, I would just think that a team would really want to see him shoot the ball first.
You talk about Markelle Fultz and how he shoots the ball. Brett Brown reportedly made that trip out to see how Fultz was doing. Do you think that? What do you think he was looking for in that visit? What do you think he was looking to see and hear? Do you think the Sixers got what they wanted in that visit?
I mean, okay, so he goes out to the visit. Brett Brown wanted him to play Summer League.
Right.
And then he goes out there and now he's not playing Summer League. So I think he probably got a reality. And, I guess Markelle, I'm hearing that he is improving. But at the same time, we can't forget that they wanted him to play in Summer League. And now all of a sudden, he's hearing things where we think he's better off, just staying with the shooting coach. But Markelle is making the trip out here, and like as most of some of his teammates, so he'll watch some of the summer league. So you understand what I'm saying? Like, sometimes people say things
right,
and it sounds great, but it's not as good as it sounds.
So you get the idea that they wanted him to play summer league, but he didn't want to play. Do you think he didn't want to play summer league because he thought that was a demotion or something?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, here's the thing about summer league. I don't know if you can consider it a demotion or anything like that, but typically a lot of guys who are top draft picks, and it's also based in your contract. Like, you negotiate sometimes, like, okay, I'll play in summer league another year, or I won't. And sometimes if you're a guy, you're a late first-round pick, or you're a second-rounder, well, you really don't have too much to negotiate. I don't know what was in Markelle Fultz' contract, but typically first-round picks do not play in summer league 2 years in a row unless they really, really want to. You know what I mean? So I think that's the one thing you have. And then, secondly, is one of those things where, if you feel as if that his shot isn't up to par to your liking and he hasn't been playing in any organized, basketball outside of just working with a shooting coach, you're putting him in an environment that's setting him up to fail. And then that's, you got all 30 teams here right now, so that's not really going to be a good look for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that you have to factor in those two things. I don't think that. And then again, like, summer league is what it is. Like, we all get excited about summer league, and it's good for like Landry Shumert to come out here, and they're saying he's going to play off the ball. But I'm gonna tell y'all, after 4 days of summer league, the excitement just goes away. Like, the games aren't as packed as they used to be. You know what I mean? It's great. Like, you're in Vegas the first couple days, and it's like, I'm going to go see these games. But you have to realize you're watching, 80% of the people in these games, if not higher, are not going to play on NBA rosters next year. So the level of play isn't that good. So, but as fans, we all love it because, let's face it, what else are we going to watch on TV?
That's right, Keith.
So I understand it.
And, of course, it's 105 degrees outside in the shade. Keith Pompey at a very steamy Las Vegas with us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He's covering the Sixers in the Summer League, and he was kind enough to join us here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll be watching tonight, Keith, and we'll be reading all your work on Philly.com. We appreciate it.
All right. See y'all, and thanks for having me on the show, y'all.